to design the apartment, you guys read the thing. Like I watched 80 romantic comedies. Am I good? I watched 80 romantic comedies in like two. I watched every romantic comedy made from 1988 until 2007 to try to figure out what were the repeated patterns in all the movies, and not just the story stuff of like run to a wedding to break up a wedding, like we know them, the gay best friend, we know all that stuff, but like weird little things like. Did you know in these movies there's always shellfish, and there's always dog walkers, and there's always half-moon windows? That is a thing that is consistent in all of them. They always put cupcakes in there. It's like so weird how many things are repeated. That flowers, but to the point of it being ridiculous in a doctor's office. You know what I mean? In Notting Hill, there's a truck filled with flowers driving around in the background of some shots. Like they just need to get flowers in there somehow. But those trinkets we found, this color scheme we found, and this is a thing that is, which one is it in? It might be in Picture Perfect, literally one of these big wire busts. So when we had all these shots of the interiors of romantic comedy apartments up in our offices, and we just pulled little elements from every romantic comedy to build our world, and that was why the movie feels that way.
That's awesome. I was going to ask, what were the classic scenes from rom-coms that you were thinking of when you're making this film? Like, what are the ones, since you watched every single one of them,
did.
What were the ones that kept coming up and you're like, we need a scene like this from 13 going on 30 or whatever it would be?
There are a lot of consistent things. I mean, falling in love in the rain is something that is always happens. Right. And it doesn't need to just be rain. It could be snow, it could be hail, any kind of precipitation coming from the sky. In Something's Gotta Give, it's snow. In Serendipity, it's snow. In Four Weddings and a Funeral, it's a rainstorm. So, and it's so weird. If you really sit and watch them all, it happens every time. Yeah. It's creepy, actually. Spooky, creepy. Other things, always a gigantic, crazy architecture office. Always a fabulous gay best friend that appears to have nothing going on in their life other than to be supportive to the main woman. The guys are all hunks. They all have a lot of hair. They all have, they're all rich, and they're all kind of a little bit jerks. Always a wedding at the end. Always wedding porn all over the movie. Like in Serendipity, above Serendipity, there's a bridal shower shop just on the second floor. That doesn't exist in real life. They put that there. So there's all this weird cupcakes. Oh, there's cupcake imagery all over the place. In the Sex and the City movie, there's a purse that's a cupcake. It's so weird. So there were things like that.
Okay, so I have a question for you. Since you've been maybe watching every romantic comedy that's ever been made, how much of an expert are you in your real life when it comes to romance?
Should I lay down on this couch? I think I'm doing okay. I have a girlfriend who's so delightful and wonderful.
But do you set it up? Like, do you set the scenes all the time like you do here?
So are you a cheese ball in your real life?
I would say that I am in my life as sentimental, nostalgic, and I like big swings for romance and affection. I do like it. I like receiving it, and I like offering it. I just a couple weeks ago flew in. My girlfriend lives in New York, where I am most of the time, but not all the time. And we hadn't seen each other a couple weeks. I didn't tell her I was coming, and I told all of her friends, get her out to a bar, put her back towards the door. I'm coming in as a secret. I'm going to do a big surprise. You won't even know it. And I did that, and she had a straight up meltdown at a bar. She went like this. She went like this.
And then the flash mob came out.
Well, congratulations on the film. We all loved it. Speaking of the flash mob, doing this all in New York, was that difficult to do? I know that you guys were doing like 16-hour days. Like, when did you find the time to Grand Central Park? Like, how did you guys do this?
It was a tough one. It was also a dream come true, though. I'm from New York originally. My parents are New Yorkers through and through, Queens. And so to make a movie, like a big movie in New York, was truly amazing. So even if it was sometimes hard or hot and there was paparazzi everywhere all the time, which was difficult, every day it did feel like a dream come true, like a once-in-a-lifetime thing. That's real. And a lot of the locations in the movie had a lot of personal meaning To me, even the ice cream shop, for instance, where they share their date and they're in the ice cream shop. That's a place I would go to as a kid. It's in Forest Hills, Queens, and it's been there 100 years. And I used to go when I was 12 years old. I sat there, and I remember in my head, I was like, one day I'm gonna make a movie in here. This place is cool.
Oh my gosh,
And
that's
and
amazing.
and there's a lot of that in the movie. But it was wild doing it in New York. There's a scene outside the hospital when Liam in the limo hits Rebel, and then they talk in the beginning, and we couldn't. That was 6th Avenue. That's Parsons, and you can't shut down fully all of New York for a movie. We got the sidewalk, and that's it. And so, as we were shooting that scene, and it was exciting for me, but I'm sure frustrating for Rebel and Liam. But as we were shooting the scene, there's double-decker tour buses of tourists coming through, being like, "Hey, let's go, Liam, we love you!" during the takes, like ruining takes. And then across the street are offices, big offices there, right? And there's people hanging out the windows watching and Instagramming it and all this stuff, which I thought was cool, but it would be a little bit distracting sometimes. And sometimes it was my friends up in those buildings that I didn't even know worked there. And they were like, "Hey, Todd!" I'd be like, "What the hell?" This is pretty exciting, actually. And so, yeah.
Hi, Todd. So, in some ways, there were a lot of musical and dance numbers in this movie too, and so in a way, it was kind of directing a musical in some ways. Can you kind of talk about that, and also, can you give us insight? Who are the best singers and dancers?
Sure can. I love doing a musical. I love a movie musical. I love it. It is like pure filmmaking. I think it can be pure filmmaking, and it's images in motion to music, and you can design them in a way that feels unique and robust, and you can try to figure out you can try to visualize the music. There's a lot of velocity and a lot of joy in it, and they're fun to shoot because everyone's in a good mood because you're doing something that is a celebration, and you can feel that when you're doing it. So I love that. Both numbers were dreams come true, but they're challenging, right? Because for karaoke, we only had like a day and a half to do that. That's really not a lot of time, and I designed that one quite specifically. So we had the music, and then I just would close my eyes and sit with the Rebel or sit with the choreographer, and what is that? What could the camera do there? Like how can everything come together to propel her into confidence? So it's the darts, and how can you get things in rhythm and sync? And she goes, "My lonely heart falls." Oh, maybe she should fall off a table, right? The word and that moment in the song. And so you start to build all those ideas. And then I sat with the choreographer and all of his dancers, and I shot the whole number on my iPhone and then cut it together. So the whole sequence was designed, shot, and cut on an iPhone. And then I could show that to everyone and be like, "Hey, it's going to be like that, and that's why that shot we need, and that's how that's going to go." And then we printed out a still of each of those shots, and we had them on big black boards on set, and it was like a recipe. It was like all the ingredients that you need to make a meal, and there were like 95 individual shots, and that's a lot of things to get. Imagine it takes half an hour to get one of those shots, and it's singers and dancers, and so in a day and a half or a day and 3/4. I had to it was like supermarket sweep, like trying to gotta get all the ingredients and then the way that it's cut together is exactly how that original iPhone edit was. Quite amazing. And then in terms of who's the best singer and dancer, they're all great. I mean, obviously Priyanka and Rebel. I mean, Priyanka's an international pop sensation, and Rebel's got an incredible voice, and she knows everything about musicals and musical comedy, musical theater. Also, I mean, she's badass. And her and Adam together in the Pitch Perfect movies, I think Liam would probably admit that he's not the most comfortable dancer in the world. But Wooden, you'll notice he's doing a lot of dancing like this. But it's because he didn't know where to put his arms. He didn't know what to do with his arms. What are these things doing attached to my body? And so the choreographer gave him a John Travolta kind of a move, and so that's the side. Just give him something to hold. Exactly.
I was going to ask you, as far as watching movies, like when you're just watching them for fun, constantly, like if we're listening to our own radio show, we probably cringe because we don't hear ourselves. When you're watching movies, do you analyze them to death, or do you thoroughly enjoy them? Or both?
It's not like I'm analyzing it to death, but now maybe I'm a little bit easier on movies, actually, because I know how hard it is to make them. But certainly, I wanted to be a filmmaker since I was really little, like really little, like 4. Like I was obsessed with movies from when I would like cry. My mom loves this. My mom should be at this junket. She loves this story. I'm 3 years old and I'm in Queens, and on Friday mornings I cry and I scream and I'm out of my, and I won't stop until she takes me in a stroller down to the movie theater because I know that there's new posters and new words on the marquee. So whatever I am, that's how it began. But when I would watch movies, I felt like I would be having a conversation with the filmmaker. Like I felt like I was in conversation with the storyteller. And I always liked that in a movie where I'm like, oh, that's a weird choice, or that feels weird, or oh my God, that shot's cool, or great call with that music, or like, wow, I really feel connected right now. It always feels like I'm listening to someone telling me a story, and those are the films that I like the most. And I don't often love movies that feel like they're just kind of happening, or like, where they feel like a room full of bureaucrats put it together. You know what I mean? Like, I like feeling connected to a person weaving me a yarn. And so I think you can do that with tone and rhythm and comedy and the way things look. And so that's what I loved as a kid and attempt myself.
So since you're in a room full of DJs, I have to ask a music question. Music obviously plays a big part in the movie. What song title, either past or present, best describes your real life?
And just come up with that answer right now.
And go.
Maybe Huey Lewis and the News, It's All Right. That song used to relax me a lot when I was a very neurotic, anxious person in my 20s. Just the idea that maybe you can just, if you can just be a little bit looser about this experience of life, it's okay, and you can just, very Buddhist song, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, that's good.
I don't know. Well, what's yours? You answer that question. That's impossible. That's an impossible question.
It's an impossible question.
Quickly.
Sweet Dreams, because this entire weekend has been like a big dream.
Hey! Isn't it nice making a comedy that's delightful? It puts everyone in a good mood. Imagine you were covering a war epic, like a World War II epic. Who needs it?
Hey, Todd. My name is Tiffany. For all the girls out there who have seen a lot of romantic comedies like yourself, and they're going to go to this movie on Valentine's Day, and they're going to get popcorn and wine and get themselves prepped, and they've seen all these other romantic comedies, what is one thing you want them to really look out for when they go to watch this movie that they're going to remember and take home with?
Oh, well, should I give you a serious answer or just
No,
a goofy
both.
answer?
Yeah, I want both.
I mean, there's a lot of fun outfits in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's such a gendered answer. I think that's something that Rebel really keyed into early on, that I related to myself, and I certainly was evident watching all these movies, like watching so many of them in preparation, is that romantic comedies are delightful and they're great, and there's a lot of them that are beautiful. Notting Hill is amazing, and Something's Gotta Give is so great, and Serendipity, I love it. Pretty Woman is, but boy, it's would it hold up under today's moral scrutiny if you watched it now? That movie is insane, actually.
Oh, man.
The movies are great because they are a celebration of life, but they do sometimes they do have a bit of a message that might be a little bit not helpful. And I think one of the ideas in the movie is to ask, are these love stories that we continually tell ourselves helpful or hurtful? Like, do they make us feel more isolated? They're obviously guilty pleasures, and they're delightful to be with because they do have so much love and life and feeling in them. But they also sometimes suggest that loneliness and sadness will go away, and you will only become completed when someone saves you and when someone else enters your life. And it sort of suggests that you're not whole.
Was that something you and Rebel talked about before you started?
Yes.
This is the message we want, bottom line.
Yes. And yes, it very much was. And we talked a lot about the final color in the movie, which is how she feels at the end of the film, right at the end. And making it really clear that it's about loving and accepting yourself and realizing that you are already complete and you always have been. And that's really the way that then you can invite in a relationship and have love in your life. But this idea that someone's gonna fill your life up because it's empty without them is such an unhelpful thing. Because when you watch these movies and you're young, you feel like you're you feel like you're at a deficit if you don't have that thing. And by the way, having that thing does not solve all of your problems, and it's not even easy. All these movies end when you get into a relationship. What happens 5 years, 6 years, you have 2 kids? It's not about those questions, and that's obviously very much a part of the movie. And let me tell you something else, iHeartRadio, is that they're also messed up for guys. They're bad for guys. And as a guy, I mean, this is a perspective just because I was watching it. Like, it teaches a man that the only way to get a girl to like you is if you're rich, in great physical shape, have a lot of hair. How about for the bald guys out there? You need to have hair, and you have to be a little bit of a jerk. You have to be a bit of a womanizing jerk, and that's what a woman's going to like about you. And so it just sets everyone up on a really bad story that's not even true. It has nothing to do with how life actually is. And those are all things that Rebel was very keen on and that she and I talked a lot about. And then you just put all this delightful comedy and singing and dancing and the visuals on top of it. So it's a celebration, but that's the difference.
She's got to be awesome to work with.
Easy, funny, and she was the producer, and she was so prepared. Like, every day she had a binder filled with alternative jokes, and she wouldn't tell me what they were, and then she would get up on then take 3, she would throw something else out there, and I'd be like, oh, that's good, I like that one. Yeah, do that. So almost like I felt like I was the first audience watching the movie come to life. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I saw you had posted a picture that your mom was actually in the wedding scene. She was in the pews. What was it like directing your mom? Did she have a lot
Challenging.
of opinions?
Did she what?
Did she have a lot of opinions for the scene?
She had a lot of questions. I wanted to do a thing of, in Harry Met Sally, I'll have what she is having as Rob Reiner's mom. And I wanted to do something like that was personal. But my mother really couldn't turn a phrase. She couldn't get up. She couldn't do it well. She was so funny. It was her birthday, so it was a big surprise. It was we all sang happy birthday to her, and she kept her dress, and my sister and I co-directed that moment, so it was a real nice family thing for us. But her line did get cut out of the film because it never sounded like a person talking. All she had to do was say, is this part of the ceremony? Like when Rebel's giving her a big, is this part of the ceremony? But she couldn't get it. Or she'd be like, is this part of the ceremony? I'd be like, Mom, quieter. She goes, is this part of the ceremony? I'd be like, okay, more like annoyed. She'd be like, is this? Then she'd get nasty. But okay, more Jewish, like more Jewishy. Oh, it's too Jewish. Oh, we got to cut this out. And you will notice, you'll notice in the movie that Rebel runs into the wedding and everyone turns their head. Like everyone in the church at once goes like this, but not my mom. She's a half a beat behind all the time. She's staring straight forward, so that's a funny thing. She's in the front right, but she loved her day and she kept the dress, she didn't care about the line. She just wanted the dress. I like doing this. It's my fault for going too long. Just give me 5 more minutes. I love it.
Carolina, I loved your movie. I love the fact that it was a lot about self-love, especially growing up, like you said, you see the whole thing for the guy and the girl, and I love that you broke that mold. But with that being said, I saw that one of the biggest things, or the themes, is Pretty Woman. How did that come about? Is that like somebody's favorite movie, your mom's favorite movie? Like, how was Pretty Woman such a big theme in that?
I just think Pretty Woman is one of the most iconic ones. It's just so iconic. I mean, you remember the outfits. Just something about that movie must have landed generationally when everyone was the right age, and the red dress and Julia Roberts is such a beautiful, such a great star-making performance, and it sort of set the mold for a lot of the ones that came afterwards. And so I think that that's probably why it was just the most iconic one, more than The Proposal is great, but I think more iconic than The Proposal is Pretty Woman, you know, so that's why.
I completely loved it. I will tell you that it's one of my favorite movies, and the fact that it was highlighted so much was everything. Because you even did the scene with her, with Rebel Wilson, when she came out, and she had somewhat of a similar, outfit.
The red dress?
Yes. Oh,
But
it
also
was
the white dress and the big
everything.
hat.
Everything. So I very much enjoyed that. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Don't you feel bad making them stop? Okay.
Oh my God, you have to get her. Just please.
First of all, I'm tripping out because you look like the guy they've been punking with us all weekend, the groom. Yeah, yeah. Like, was I just really drunk, or is the director punking me? But I just was curious. Like, obviously, I love the movie. As a big girl, it was really special to me. Like, I just love that inclusivity, and it's just been watching Rebel's career develop into what it is just amazing. But my curiosity gets the best of me. I just want to know if there was anything that you kept from the set. Like, was there something you were just like, I need to keep this as a memento from the movie?
What did I keep? What did I keep? I didn't keep anything. Did I keep anything?
I have the worst question ever. I thought it was going to be a good question.
I don't think I kept any. I kept the slate. I don't know if I kept anything. It was all such girl. Was that girl stuff?
Really? Have you ever kept anything from a movie before?
Yeah, my last movie was a summer camp movie, and I kept I kept everything.
Okay, well there. Okay.
Oh.
I'm sorry. I wasted your time.
I don't want to leave. These are my friends.